How is everyone doing? Welcome back to another live stream on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin and whether the bottom is in for BTC on that recent dump that we had over the weekend. Is 74K the bottom? Are we going up from here? Will we see all-time highs on the next move? I'm going to talk about all of that on today's live stream. Just had to mute myself then. I was hearing feedback. But how is everyone doing? Welcome back to another stream. We're going to go through Bitcoin. We're going to look at some charts because I'm not necessarily fully convinced to the bullish argument. Okay, I'm not on board with the argument that this is the bottom. Look, anything's possible. I'm open to ideas, of course. I'm always open to ideas, but to me, I don't see this. I don't see this being the bottom. Okay, I really don't. Apologies about the feedback if you guys experienced that. I had the live stream open on YouTube. As soon as I started talking, I heard myself, and it was on full blast, so I wasn't expecting it. But let me know. Do you guys think this is the bottom on BTC? I personally do not. For the main reason being that we haven't hit the 200-week moving average yet on BTC. Yes, you've got some strong support around this region. I've actually put a trend line on this chart, which I was showing my VIP members on the Discord voice chat the other day. Make sure you are a VIP member if you're not already, so you can join those daily voice chats. But you can see, like, this is a major level, all right? This is a major level. And a lot of people out there are calling bottoms right now. I myself am not calling the bottom, but I give it, a 20% chance that this is the floor and that we simply bounce from here to all-time highs. I don't see that as the likely scenario. Do I think we'll get a bounce from here? Absolutely. And we're seeing it right now. We could even bounce up to 88, 89K and potentially attempt to get back into this range and then reject and then come back down, right? That's something which happens quite often. When you lose a range like we did with this bear flag, like we did with this ascending channel, you come down and then you try and attempt to regain the range and then you come even lower, right? That's a possible scenario if you're being a little bit optimistic for me. But I do not see a direct V-shaped recovery here to all-time highs. I do believe we need to go lower. And the main reason for that is all to do with the moving averages on Bitcoin, something which I really implement in my macro Bitcoin analysis. Bitcoin lost the 50-week moving average. I openly and publicly sold my remains of my portfolio at that point, so I was fully in stable coins. I was taking profits on the way up. I was cashing out Bitcoin and buying, various assets with those profits. But, this was kind of the nail in the coffin. That was the line in the sand. And when we closed the week below the 50-week moving average, I exited the remains that I had. And since then, alts have dumped 40 to 70% lower from that point. Now, we could see a little bit of a bounce and come back lower, but ultimately, these big macro moving averages for me are a huge part of my overall Bitcoin DCA strategy. If we're above the 50-week, Bitcoin is expensive. If we're significantly above the 50-week, Bitcoin is expensive. If we're significantly below it, then maybe it's cheap. And if we're on the 200-week, then it's certainly cheap. So the best way to look at it is, if Bitcoin is touching or below the 200-week, you're getting Bitcoin at a steal price. Because it very rarely stays there for long when it does pull back to the 200-week. It's inevitable that at some point it will come back to the 200-week. But it's just a matter of time. And when it goes there, it could be very quick. It could come down, hit it for a day, and then just go straight back up. So you have to count yourself lucky if you can buy Bitcoin at the 200-week. And that's why I'm not beginning my DCA strategy at the 200-week itself. I'm actually beginning my DCA strategy a little bit above. And I've gone and put in the Discord group the exact levels I'm going to be buying Bitcoin. Okay. I put the exact prices I'm going to be buying Bitcoin in the buy alert channel. I haven't bought any Bitcoin yet. My average on Bitcoin is 15,900. So I'm going to be significantly bringing my average up, but I'm okay with that because I don't believe we'll ever go back down to 15K again. And I want more Bitcoin. So the only way I'm going to get more Bitcoin is by bringing my average up. So I have to just face the facts that I'm going to bring my average up in order to get more Bitcoin. And I'm okay with that. But I'm not convinced that 74K was the floor. Like I said, we could certainly have a bounce from 74K, and we're seeing that happen right now. But I believe it will be a bounce to a lower high, and then we will make a lower low because we're clearly in a bearish structure here. And to me, we're clearly in a bear market, not just a bearish structure, but a bear market. And bear markets typically last a little bit longer than what we've experienced so far. I'm not saying it's a guarantee that we have to go all the way until Q4, like a lot of prominent analysts are saying. We could find a bottom in Q2 or Q3, but I don't believe this is the bottom just yet, okay? I think this is probably going to get lost at some point. It's just a matter of time for me. And if you go and look at Polymarket, it is also in agreement. Polymarket is essentially predicting with 70% probability that Bitcoin will go below 65K at some point this year. So 70% chance, 7 out of 10 chance that Bitcoin goes below 65K this year. And that pretty much lines up with my personal target on Bitcoin, which is indeed the 200-week moving average. It doesn't have to be the exact bottom. I've said it many times, okay? I know I'm obsessing over this level, but it doesn't have to be the exact bottom. We could go a little bit below it, like we did in 2022. We could almost hit it, but not hit it exactly. It's just there or thereabouts, okay? You just have to be DCAing heavily into Bitcoin around the 200-week. And I know some people who began to DCA at 74K. That's absolutely fine. 74K is not a terrible price to be buying Bitcoin. I would still argue it's relatively expensive. It's not cheap, but it's not really expensive. So I'll give you, 74K. It's a decent buy zone, but I'm personally not getting out of bed for a 74K Bitcoin. I want lower, and I'm not going to buy until we get lower. I'm going to be very stubborn, and it could come back to bite me, but I'm okay with that. I'm happy to pay the consequences of that stubbornness. So we're seeing a little bit of a recovery today after a very brutal week. If you look at the weekly, it's a sea of red on crypto bubbles. But if you look at the daily, we're getting little pockets of green, 3%, 4% gains on most altcoins. Nothing special, but 2 to 4% recovery on the majority of the altcoins in the top 100. I'm not excited about that. They were bound to have a bounce after such a brutal dump. To me, it's not a big surprise. Anyway, let's get into some of the comments. Let me see. Let me see what you guys are saying. Has my camera froze for you guys? I don't know if you can hear me, but I think my camera's froze. I've just realized that. Has it been frozen the whole time I've been speaking? Camera's been... You guys didn't tell me this whole time. There's 130 of you guys watching, and no one bothered to tell me that the camera was frozen the whole time. Come on, guys. It would have been nice for someone to mention that. Damn. At least the mic's working. I mean, I could have been going for 10 minutes and you guys wouldn't have told me that the mic wasn't working as well, maybe. I don't know. I think the camera's just decided to pack it in, which is annoying, but it's okay. We'll just have to put up with it. Not frozen the whole time? Okay. At least you guys can hear me. That's the important part, and you can see the screen. So, yeah, I've kind of lost my train of thought now. But anyway, what are my thoughts on Circle, the stock? I think Circle's decent. I definitely prefer it to MicroStrategy as a stock to buy, but my favorite crypto related stock is indeed Coinbase. Coinbase is my favorite crypto stock. I don't own any Coinbase right now, but I would be looking to build a position into Coinbase at some point. Let me just pull up the Coinbase chart actually, because this is one which I've been recommending kind of to the lower risk takers within my group. I've been getting on some calls with some members on the bundle, and they've been telling me that they don't want to take massive risks next cycle. And I've kind of been pointing them towards Coinbase. Um, yeah, Coinbase is my favorite crypto stock. If I had to pick one, it would be for sure Coinbase. I don't think there's any crypto stock on the level of Coinbase in terms of like blue chipness. That I know that's not a word, but you know what I mean. Circle's solid. Circle's absolutely solid, right? USDC is going to be the second biggest stable coin probably for a long time. But yeah, I would personally just put all my eggs in one basket when it comes to crypto stocks. I know that's a strategy which people don't like to do. But if I was going to get a crypto related stock, I would just go all in on Coinbase. I wouldn't bother with any of the other ones personally because there's too much risk. I mean, there's too much risk with micro strategy for me. There's too much risk with you know, even Circle. Like we've seen issues with stable coins before. I know we've seen issues with exchanges, but there's something about Coinbase. I just feel insanely safe having money in Coinbase, although I don't have any right now, but I have in the past. So yeah, this would be the one crypto stock I would buy. It would be Coinbase. And it's actually in a golden pocket right now. So it's not a bad time to be dollar cost averaging into Coinbase stock if you are long-term bullish on the company. This is a decent price to buy some Coinbase. But you've got this trend line. I don't know if you guys can see this on my screen. You've got this trend line here on Bitcoin, which stems back to April 2021. And we came down perfectly to it during this recent crash. So I am expecting a bit of a relief bounce here, but I don't think it's going to be sustainable enough for us to get back into a bull trend. I think it's just going to be a very short-term bounce. And, all it takes is a little bit of news or whatever, and we're just going to come back lower, and we're going to go into the 60s region, the 60,000 region. Look at the S&P 500. It literally just made a new all-time high at 7,000. If this thing just sneezes, has the slightest sneeze, just gets a bit of dust in its nose and needs to sneeze, it's going to destroy risk on assets, okay? I don't buy this idea that like if the S&P dumps, Bitcoin's not going to dump as well or not going to dump more. It certainly will dump more. Yes, maybe Bitcoin is front running the S&P 500 dump and maybe it's the first mover and maybe it'll be the first to bottom. But if someone's trying to tell me that if the S&P 500 corrects 10%, Bitcoin's not going to go below 70K, I think that's insanity. I think it absolutely will. Because the S&P is at all-time highs, and it is overdue a correction. Moon Boys think 80K was the floor? Well, it wasn't. We went down to 74. So it couldn't be the floor because we went lower. Yeah, I like Circle. Circle is good. I'm just personally more fond of Coinbase. Peter says, I don't think this is the bottom personally. Yeah, I got to agree with you. Joseph says it's definitely not the bottom, but if it is, we're going to go really high. That 75K is a hell of a level. It's basically the last stand, says Joseph. Are you still bullish on Casper? Yeah, I'm bullish on Casper long term, but I'm not bullish on it so long as Bitcoin is in a bear market, right? So it's all about time frames. It's all about perspective. I haven't been bullish on altcoins since Bitcoin lost the 50-week moving average, and I've been vindicated on that because they've dumped another 30 to 70% across the board. So I've been vindicated on that stance. A lot of people laughed. A lot of people said I would lose a ton of money doing that. How can you lose money taking profits? I mean, that doesn't make sense. But a lot of people were mocking that decision actually to sell at the 50-week moving average. Yeah, I was going back in my Discord, and even within my own group, there was a bunch of people saying it was a ridiculous decision. We're going to pump straight back above 100K next week and all of this. It never happened. And those people aren't in the group anymore because they didn't follow the sell alerts. So they got wrecked and they're not in the group anymore. You know, all the people who didn't follow those sell alerts, they are not in the group. They left. They left the VIP group. They probably got destroyed. But yeah, I'm bullish on Casper's tech. I'm bullish on Casper as a project, but I'm not bullish on altcoins until I believe Bitcoin has bottomed, and I don't believe Bitcoin has bottomed. So how can I be bullish on alts? In terms of price. You can be bullish in terms of fundamentals and bearish in terms of price, believe it or not. You're longing Casper here and using a lot of margin to make sure I don't get liquidated. Casper's been a horrible coin to long over the course of the past couple years, whatever it's been. But it is on major support. I'll give you that, my friend. I will give you that. I've been looking at this Casper compression for a long time, and I got to give it to you. It is actually right on support. So if there's any time Casper's going to bounce, it's going to be now. But I would still be waiting for this breakout before getting into a big long-term position, because it's highly likely it's just going to reject again at that resistance and then form another lower low, because that's literally what it's been doing now since basically the middle of last year or summer last year. Will I be buying any altcoins when Bitcoin hits the 200 SMA? Absolutely. I'll be buying altcoins just before Bitcoin hits the 200 SMA. And I'm going to be putting a list together for my VIP members very shortly, where they get a full Crypto Archie watch list of all the altcoins, maybe 20 or 30 different altcoins that I have on my radar. And then I'll go through them all one by one, score them, rank them, vet them even more. And then those will be the ones that make it to my portfolio. So I'm going to give them kind of like a short list or a watch list of 30 coins, let's just say. And then out of those 30, maybe 10 of them make my portfolio. I've really got to narrow it down. So I'm really looking forward to that. I know the members on the VIP will be as well. And people can't wait for me to buy back into the market. But I can't be rushed. Got to take my time, got to be patient, and I've got to wait for my level to get hit. Or around my level. Like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be on the dot, the 200 week, for me to buy back in. But it just has to be around it. I mean, I don't deem 74K as around the 200 week. The 200 week right now is at 58K. 74K is significantly above that. But maybe 64K, 65K, yeah, we can potentially start buying back into the market. But we're just not there yet. And I do believe we're going lower. Polymarket is also suggesting a high chance of Bitcoin going below 65K. I'm in complete agreement with that. And I'm not of the belief this is the bottom. It's that simple. A lot of other YouTubers, they won't tell you clear-cut stuff like this, they won't just be upright and straight up. They'll cover themselves either way. But I am telling you right now, I do not believe 74K will be the bear market bottom. Could we have a bounce from here? Yes. Is this the floor for the whole year? Highly likely not. Not impossible. Are there any coupons for the VIP? I can make one. I can make one right now. I'll tell you in a few minutes. Unfortunately, my camera is not wanting to work today, which is unfortunate, but can't change that. A lot of people still in denial. You know, a lot of people still can't admit that we're in a bear market. That's something. If you said we were in a bear market 2 months ago, you'd get called insane. If you say that we're in a bear market now, there's not as much opposition to that. There'll still be a few eyebrows raised, but there's not as much opposition as what there used to be when you would say we're in a bear market. Like when I was saying Bitcoin's in a bear market up here, like people were going crazy, people were going nuts. But now you say it down here, seems kind of normal. But there's still a few people, I would still say about 20% of people do not believe in the bear market argument. They still believe we're fully in a bull run. Maybe 20%, 25% of people. Once they concede to the bear market argument, then you know the bottom is either in or very close, because that's maximum capitulation. Once even the people who are arguing that we're still in a bull run, once they flip, that's when you know for sure the bottom is in, we're going into a bull run. Because I remember last cycle, and this is where the experience of having a previous bear market really comes in handy. You know, people were saying here, we're not in a bear market. People were saying here, we're not in a bear market. People were saying here, the bull run's back on. They were saying here, we're not in a bear market. It was really, for me, once we broke below 28K, that kind of midline support, once we broke below that, it was at that point when there was full realization by 99% of people that we are in a bear market. And the bottom was very close. Okay? So it's at that point when everyone believes we are in a bear market, that's when the bottom is starting to get close. As of right now, I would still argue at least 20% of the populace believe Bitcoin is still very much in a bull run. They need to flip. Okay, now that's a sentiment argument. I've been looking at the charts and giving you the charting perspective, but that's the sentiment perspective for me. We need max capitulation. We need everyone to admit it's a bear market, and then we'll form a bottom. Right now, there's still a decent chunk out there disagreeing with me, but it's definitely decreasing, okay? I was getting called insane up here by like maybe 70% of people saying we're in a bear market. Then you lose the bear flag and people start thinking, yeah, maybe this guy's right. You know, and it's not just me. There's a bunch of other smart YouTubers saying we're in a bear market. But you lose the bear flag and then people go, yeah, this guy's right. I think we are in a bear market. And that for me was the point where like a lot of people came to the realization. There was a great awakening here. All the kind of people on the side, not really sure, they all came on our side once we lost the support there. And there's very, very few people arguing now that we are still in a bull run, but they still exist. They still exist, and that's the problem. What is the difference between the VIP and the bundle? So the bundle is lifetime VIP, And you get all the perks of the mentor tier for life as well. So direct access to messaging me, mentor group meetings. You get all the courses that I make. You get access to those. And there's going to be some new courses coming in 2026 to the bundle. So loads of additional stuff. And you can one-to-one call me as well. Not just message, but also you can get on a video call with me. So there's some big perks. But I'm going to make a discount code right now. Just going to make a promo code for the guy who asked. Let's use the code bear market. Why not? Just to trigger the the people who are in denial. Let's use the code bear market and let's do it as 35% off, okay? All right, use the code bear market at checkout. You'll get 35% off any of the membership options. Pretty big discount. All right, let me check the chat. Crypto Factor says, because we have not broken structure, we are still in a sideways market, lol. We are very close, by the way. 74K break structure. Yeah. How's it going, Crypto Factor? Good to see you. So I kind of get your point. For me, losing the 50-week moving average broke structure because I look at moving averages a lot. It's one of the main things I go off. So for me, that was a break of structure, losing the 50-week moving average. That's maybe where we disagree because there's multiple people in my group who have the same argument as you. They say, "Oh, we haven't broken structure on the higher time frame because we haven't lost 74K." They argue we haven't broken higher time frame structure. But for me, losing the 50-week moving average, which is basically an average of Bitcoin's price pretty much for the last year, that was losing high time frame structure. But people say that wasn't, right? But I get where you're coming from, right? Get where you're coming from. We haven't lost 74K just yet, but I believe we will, and that's the key part. I think once we lose 74, you're going to have even more people on board with the bear market thesis. But yeah, there's for sure big support at 74K. And that's why I'm arguing we will have a short-term bounce. But it'll be short-lived, and we're going to go lower, in my view. But no one knows for certain. That's the important thing I need to reiterate. No one knows for certain. Crypto Factor with the 10 euro. Euro? I didn't know you were in the EU. Get me on your channel. Let's debate. Let's have a debate. Let's do it. I don't know what there is to debate, really, though. I mean, you argue we haven't lost high time frame structure. I argue we have. Maybe it's semantics. I don't know, but I think it's pretty obvious we're in a downtrend, right? There's not really a debate on that. I mean, I think it's Cope calling it sideways. I think that's Cope. If you're calling what's this? A 41% dump in like a few months sideways, I do believe that is Cope. That's hopium. I think we will bottom faster than expected. but goes sideways longer than expected, says Zelvesa. You know what? I think it's highly possible we get a bottom in the first half of the year. The way Bitcoin's dumping so fast, this bear market is happening so quick, it's almost hard to process. I haven't gone and done the actual math on it, but it feels to me like we're dumping even quicker than 2022. The complacency shoulder was shorter. The rally was shorter. Like the lower high was shorter. The sideways action was shorter. It feels like we're forcefully moving down. Forcefully. We're moving down at a fast rate. Now, there's two sides to that. One argument is we're going to continue moving forcefully down all year and we're going to bottom extremely low. 20K, 30K, 35K. That's one argument. The other argument, the one I would say I'm more in the camp of, is that we're moving forcefully down and maybe we'll actually find a bottom a little bit earlier than normal. That's the camp I'm in. Because if you look at how close Bitcoin is right now to the 200-week moving average, it is not that far away if we think about it, right? I know I said it's not close enough for me to buy just yet, but Bitcoin's currently trading at 78K and the 200-week moving average is around 58, 59K. So it's about $18,000 difference on Bitcoin. We could easily dump $18,000 within the next few months. That is not absurd to say. And if that happens, there's a chance Bitcoin bottoms out earlier than expected. Now, the alternative is obviously the ultra bearish case, which is no, we'll keep going lower, we'll lose the 200-week, and we're going to find a bottom at an extremely cheap price. And there's plenty of people making that argument, actually. The time-based argument more than the price-based argument. There's plenty of people siding more on the on the time side than the price side. I'm focused more on the price side, but I understand the argument of the time argument, saying that we usually bottom in Q4, therefore it's going to be all the way at the end of the year, and it's going to be a lot lower than what you think. I get it. I'm just not in that camp personally, but I understand it, and I value that argument. But hit the likes on the stream, guys. It is a late one for me. It's 1:30 a.m. And I have this amount of energy. Last time I had a coffee was probably about 12 hours ago. So definitely hit up the likes if you appreciate the daily live streams. I even went live at the weekend when we were capitulating. Had to show up. A lot of other YouTubers are hiding. Going fast down because it's a correction, not a bear market. No, that's wrong, my friend. You see, a correction is usually just like one big move down, like what we had in April. That is a correction. It's usually just one big move down, and that's it. It's done. What we have here is one big move down, followed by a potential recovery move, followed by another big move down. That is actually clear bear market structure. Because if this was just a correction, we would have had a legitimate breakout when we were in the ascending channel. We would have had a legitimate breakout. If it was just merely a corrective move, we would have seen a legitimate breakout above 98K, and we would have gone to new all-time highs, and we'd be in that process right now. But we didn't. We lost that support, and now we've gone to a lower low, clear bear market structure. Guys, this is what a bear market's like. Down, attempt to go back up. Down, attempt to go back up. Down. That's a bear market. An actual corrective move is more like that, down, and then back up, like a V-shaped recovery. That's more of a corrective move. This is an actual bear market move when you're looking at the weekly chart. Can you message me on the VIP to help with portfolio? So we have a portfolio review channel. I'm also extremely active in the VIP, and I'm on the voice chats pretty much every day. And I do live streams. So you will have the chance to get your portfolio reviewed and altered. But if you want the personal direct one-to-one contact, then that's what the bundle or the mentor tier would be for. Is Tesla on your radar, Archie? I sold almost all of my Tesla at the top. I sold almost all of my Tesla. Or I was selling it on the way up, but I got rid of the last bits when it just formed a top. Bullish on it long term, but I wanted to buy a property in Dubai, so I sold a little bit of it, or a lot of it actually. I wanted to get into an investment property in Dubai. So I just kind of rotated the bags a little bit. I was up in really nice profits, and you got to take profits. You got to take profits. Very important. Especially in Dubai, it's capital gains. There's no capital gains tax. It's capital gains free. So you're not paying any tax on crypto. So it's a lot easier to rotate stuff because you're not having to constantly be paying the government these taxes, these stupid taxes. Ridiculous. People are coping hard, still thinking it's a bull market. Absolutely. And it's a bottom when there's no cope left. When there's no hope and no cope left, it's a bottom. And we're not at that point yet. There's still an awful lot of copium out there. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap up the stream here. We've been live for 37 minutes. Appreciate each and every one of you being on the stream today. Just to summarize, I do not believe the bottom is in for Bitcoin, though I do expect some short-term bounces around the $74,000, $75,000 region, just because of how important the support is. But I do believe eventually we'll lose it, and we will make that move down into the 60s towards the 200-week moving average. If you want to see my real-time buy and sell alerts, if you want to see the exact coins I buy whenever I start buying back into this market, and it could be a lot sooner than we think, then go ahead and join the VIP group. It is linked down below. Daily voice chats. I'm in them pretty much every day out of the week, unless I'm extremely busy. And if you want more of a personal mentor, then go for the big bundle. This gives you full mentorship, one-on-one messaging, one-on-one calls, and full access to all of the course material I've ever created and will upload in the future as well. Thank you all for watching. Hit a like. It is 1:35 a.m. here in Dubai, so need to get some rest. But if you appreciated the stream and you got any little bit of value or entertainment from the stream, then hit up the likes and subscribe if you are new. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the next live stream.